Welcome back to the Natural Healers Network TV. We're here now with Johanna Lyman, who is a spiritual love coach and author. And I'd like to introduce her now. Thanks for being here, Johanna.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
Great. Now I understand that you have a business called Romance Recovery. Is that right?
That's right.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? What is your business about?
I help women in midlife or younger women who've been in relationships a long time. You know, you get that point in a relationship where the bloom has come off the rose a little bit and things get a little bit stale, or maybe they get worse than stale. Mm-hmm. And you're at that point where you're trying to decide, should I stay or should I go? I help women come to that decision with the courage they need so that they're really clear whether they decide to stay or go, that they feel really good about the decision. And if they leave, it's with no judgment, no blame, no shame. And if they stay, they're both feet in it and a heart wide open.
Wow, that is great. I think this is very important work, and I really appreciate that you're doing this. I notice it in the work that I do that this is a big issue for many people, in particular women nowadays. And so I just want to congratulate you for doing that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, you know, they say, I don't know about you, but I teach what I most need to learn. Mm-hmm. So this particular work came out of my own relationship, and I've been with my partner. Last weekend, we celebrated 26 years together.
Nice.
But we hit a real rough patch about 6 years ago, and we were separated for a year. And out of that experience, it was just so intense. And, you know, I really thought it was all him. And come to find out, it really wasn't. Mm-hmm. So I got to do some deep, powerful healing on myself. And that's sort of what spawned this version of my coaching practice. So I've been doing this in this way for about 5 years now, and I've been a life coach for 10 years.
Okay. And then you've recently written another book, right? And so the book is called The Soulmate Myth?
That's right.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about the book and what the soulmate myth is.
Okay, so the soulmate myth has two levels. The first level is the idea that there's one person out there for us who's going to be our one and only, and we'll live happily ever after. The second level is that there's three dynamics that work together to destroy happily ever after. So they kind of go in and they corrupt the myth, and we think everything's fine for a period of time, and then the first myth kicks in. And that first myth is we have unrealistic expectations. And the reason we have these unrealistic expectations is that everything we learned about love came from fairy tales and romantic comedies as we get a little bit older. So we have this idea that, you know, the main archetypes in fairy tales are, we have the Prince Charming, we have the beautiful princess, and sometimes we have the beast or the frog. And so we get caught up in this dynamic, which is really all about rescuing or being rescued. And then we realize that real life isn't like that. So we wake up and we say, wait a minute, I didn't sign up for this. I signed up for my Prince Charming and my happily ever after, and I want it now.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, it is true that we tend to look to our partners to be that one for solve our problems. It's looking to the external for our own happiness and growth and so forth. And I agree, that's a big issue.
Right. And the real secret behind the soulmate myth is that the soulmate you've been looking for is you. That you're the only one who can really be there for you all the time to give yourself the love that you need. And there's one of the romantic ideas we have came from, it was really beautifully illustrated in the movie Jerry Maguire with Tom Cruise. And at the end of the movie, he comes to the Renee Zellweger's, her character's door, and he gives this impassioned speech about how he realized he really can't live without her. And at the end he says, "You complete me." It's such a load of crock. Mm-hmm. Nobody else can complete you. You have to do that job for yourself. But we don't realize this because of the second dynamic that destroys our happily ever after. And that's the dynamic that, Steve, you probably work with a lot. It's how the subconscious mind works when it comes to choosing a mate and how we think about our romantic relationships. And we might think, oh, I picked him because he was attractive, or I knew he was successful, or any of a number of things that we have as standards for who we want in a relationship. But really, it's this part of the subconscious mind at work. And it's going around and it's scanning everyone we see for matches to the positive and the negative traits of our primary caregivers, which for most of us obviously are parents, but early teachers and grandparents can also have an impact. And we're looking for a do-over. We're looking for a chance to receive that level of unconditional love that our parents somehow failed to give us when we were young children. And even if that means, I don't want that to sound dramatic, it could be we were left in the crib for 3 minutes crying unattended. And we don't really know how this works in small children, but it creates a mark. And we're looking to be loved. And so we attract a partner based on the positive characteristics of our parents and early caregivers. And somewhere along the line, the negative qualities start popping up. And so I see this all the time, and you probably do too, that when I first met my partner, I was really attracted to his free spirit. And now he doesn't tell me when he's coming home, and I never know where he is, and it makes me crazy. Well, it's the same free spirit. Mm-hmm. It's just you were expecting that free spirit to rescue you some way, to help you feel the love that you didn't feel, perhaps from a really controlling parent. So it gets a little bit complicated, but it's the second of the dynamics.
Okay,
in the book.
And do you see the relationship as an opportunity to take a look at those subconscious beliefs and a look at those things that are going on and work on those things?
Absolutely, and that's where the healing comes in, and that's where you can take a relationship that's fair to good and make it extraordinary. You just have to be willing to look at those dynamics, to look at what your partner's bringing to the table, but also look at what you're bringing to the table. I have a really good friend who was listening to me rant when I was separated from my husband. And I was saying, oh, he doesn't respect me. That was my big rant at the moment. He doesn't respect me. And my friend said, change the pronoun. Change the pronoun. Yeah, just go ahead. Okay, I don't respect myself. That was a huge eye-opener for me. And then I changed it another way and said, I don't respect him. And I could come up with a laundry list of ways I didn't respect him. Mm-hmm. How can I expect him to respect me if I don't respect him? So anytime that we're like blaming or criticizing our partner for something, if you just turn it around and are willing to look at, how do I do this? It can really positively shift the relationship. Absolutely.
Yeah, that speaks to one of the things I work with people on, the idea that we receive what we send out.
Yes.
And that's kind of, you just highlighted it right there.
Yes.
Yeah. But I want to make sure we cover the third. What's the third part of the soulmate myth? Let us know.
Yes, thank you. The third part is what I call sexual disconnection. And this is attached to a myth that when we're with the right person, the sex will be phenomenal forever. And it's not true. What makes the sex so great at the beginning of a relationship, if I can be so blunt, is that we have this potent cocktail of hormones running through our blood that makes us really deeply desire this new partner. And there's unfortunately a very unsexy reason for that. It's so that we can have babies. And once we're with the partner for a period of time, that cocktail of hormones starts to wear off. And it's replaced with another set of chemicals in the body that are responsible for bringing people together, making them feel close, making them feel connected. And these chemicals like oxytocin and serotonin, that help us forge long-term relationships. And this is helpful when we're rearing children, for example. And that doesn't mean that the sex goes away or it's forever stale, but the thing that creates eroticism, which is what makes sex so good in the early days, is the space between two people. So if you want to increase the eroticism, you have to put a little mystery. And whether that's going on a date night or dressing in a different way that you wouldn't normally dress, or any number of things. I talk with my clients about all the different ways that you can spice up your relationship. But you can do this without it impacting the intimacy. Even though eroticism and intimacy are sometimes at two opposing ends of the relationship spectrum, they can comfortably coexist. It just takes a little bit of work. You have to put your attention on it.
Okay. So in terms of the people that you work with, tell us a little bit about who would be the ideal person to come see you or work with you.
The ideal person to come see with me is usually a woman. Women tend to be, I'm sorry to say this, but a little more courageous than men when it comes to wanting to fix their problems. We've been socialized that it's okay for women to talk about their issues, not so acceptable for men, unfortunately, although that is starting to change. So typically women in their 40s and 50s, they're in a long-term relationship, they love their partner, but some things aren't working out. And they want the relationship to be better, or sometimes they come to me and they're absolutely certain, like I was, that it's over. And that might not be the real story. So, and they also have to be willing to look at their dynamics and to be honest with themselves.
Okay. Well, but going back to what you said about the relationship possibly being over, do you think there are any relationships that are truly hopeless?
Believe it or not, only two instances, I think, are really hopeless, and one is when there's abuse involved. And if that's the case, you really do need to get help with that. I don't believe that women or men who are in abusive situations can get out of it without at least a little bit of help. And the second situation that I've seen as hopeless is when one partner is absolutely adamant about maintaining the status quo, and they're not interested in shifting or changing or looking at the dynamic whatsoever. There's probably no hope in that relationship.
Okay. Well, we're just about out of time. I just wanted to say thank you so much for being here, Johanna, and we really appreciate you being here.
Thank you. It was great to be here. Thanks for having us.
Great. And that's just about our time for the Natural Healers Network TV. We hope you'll tune in for our next show, and thanks for being here.